Hello, welcome to Revive and Rise. I'm your host, Melody Parrish, and I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. I have a powerful thought for the month of July, and let's just see where this takes us. Maybe into August, September, but I want to talk about kindness and how important kindness is, how simple it is, the profound nature and the profound effects that it can have on a person and a person's life. I want to talk about that little moment that makes such a big difference. And on our podcasts throughout this month, and maybe leading into the next few, I'm going to have guests that will share their stories of various kinds, and they will share that pivotal moment that, benefited them or affected them in such powerful ways. They'll also share their expertise in whatever area they're talking about and speaking to us. And I want to talk today kind of as an introduction to this idea. And I want to share my personal stories with you. I feel like, first of all, we are in a crisis in this world. It seems like the levels of cruelty are definitely higher than the kindness and love. And still, there is love, joy, and kindness in this world. And thankfully, it pokes out in various ways throughout all of the negativity. But it seems to me that there's a different spirit right now among our world and among our nation. And I think this needs to be addressed. A lot of people are feeling like, I don't know what to do. I don't know my purpose in this world. I don't know if I can make a difference in things. And every day we are presented with small moments that can make huge differences. I know throughout my life, I have experienced struggles, just like we all have. And I have been the recipient of various acts of kindness and small moments within my life. And one of the latest ones was so powerful and revolutionary to me and what I was going through at the moment that I actually wrote a book about it. It's my second book. It's my latest book, and the title is One. If you want to check it out, it's a quick read. But it is an example of the powerful effects of positivity and kindness. I feel like at the moment we just shout, we just say what we think, and we don't listen to others. And it's so important to just stop, take a moment, and listen to others and speak far less than you listen. We're all human beings, and we all have so many more things in common than things that divide us, things that separate us. We all, as human beings, want to be seen and heard. And that's a powerful thing when you feel seen and heard. And throughout my experiences, when I just needed somebody, I just needed something, just a little thing. Somebody would just text me or give me a call just to let me know that I'm thought about. And like there would be a song that played, or someone would say, "Oh, remember this when we did this," or different things like that. Someone would give me a smile. Someone would just do something small. I remember many instances when I was at the age of able to understand what was going on and how powerful this all was. As many of you know, when I was 13 years of age, um, into my 14th year on Earth, I experienced an illness that left me, unable to walk and with lots of neurological and physical incapabilities. And so, at that time in life, I felt so alone, and I didn't know what to do. I was out of school. I was being homeschooled by my father, and so I rarely saw people. I rarely saw my friends from school to the point where I didn't see my friends. So here I am, 13, 14 years old, at the height of puberty, when you're supposed to be trying to understand yourself and how life works, and that's really when you begin to build self-confidence, and I hadn't really done that yet, and so I'm trying to do that, but I'm trying to do that without the influence of my peers, without those kind of experiences and those kind of things. And so I remember just lying in the bed. There was very few things I could do. One was listening to music, which, had a big, profound effect on my life. But I also watched a lot of TV. And I would lie in my bed and, just think of, everything I was missing and how I was so alone. And I was in a dark place at that time. And I had a very good friend and his brother, who is also my very good friend. And they would come and visit me, and they would sit and they would talk to me. We even went to dinner several times. I love to go on outings because other than going to the rehab hospital, I didn't really go too much. Occasionally, I went to the grocery store and those kind of things, but not very much. And it meant so much to me that these two gentlemen would take the time to come visit me and just talk. One was a super excellent artist and could draw such amazing work. And, he would share those things with me and, and treat me like a human being, treat me like, your average classmate, an average friend who was an important person. And that meant so much to me. And it did affect me in such a positive way. Just those simple things, them coming to visit me, them taking time to talk to me. It was so important. And neither one of them probably know or have an idea of how that simple act was so important and profound, but it really was. And I'm going through life, going to college, and when I was in college, my senior year, I got in a car accident, and again, was unable to walk. But there, in that instant, my brain was affected too. I had a traumatic brain injury from the accident. And so a lot of my wounds were unseen. And my roommate at the time was so understanding. And my roommate at the time learned how to help me. And she took the time to learn, how I existed in the world and how my brain thought. And sometimes I had misplaced anger, and I just wasn't kind. But she understood that I couldn't help it because everything in my mind was a jumbled mess. And just knowing that I could be myself around her made such a difference. And then I remember being in a wheelchair, and people look at people in wheelchairs and people with physical disabilities very differently. And I would see, this was back in the 90s. And, I would see people and they would just give me this look of horror that made me think, wow, something's wrong with me. What's the matter? What do I look like this so bad? And even though I knew I was in a wheelchair, I knew that my life at that moment and my appearances looked difficult, but I still didn't expect those looks. People would just pass me by and not even look at me, not even acknowledge me, just, looked at me like I was in the way, like I was an inconvenience. And but I remember vividly those people that just stopped and smiled at me. It wasn't anything big, just a smile. And that's it. But that act of kindness was so important to me because they saw me, and instead of seeing me and, pulling away or looking at me like I was broken, they looked at me with kindness and they looked at me like a human being. And that in itself was profound, because most people didn't do that. And, just different things like that. When then, as I, as I moved through life, I worked at an environmental lab in Charleston, where I'm from. I lived there for 16 years, and it was there that I saw a new and different kind of kindness. It was that to me was just a beautiful experience, and I made some of the richest friendships that I have to this day. And it was the simple things, like asking how I was and being glad to see me, being glad to see me in the morning, being happy that I was there. My my bosses at the time, they knew, or they had confidence that if they asked me something, I would get it done. I would get the job done. And that meant a lot to me as well, that confidence they had in me, because I didn't have it. I didn't have confidence in myself at all. Because of those around me, I thought I was broken, and I felt like I was broken. And so to have, and I felt like very, very few people had confidence in me, had confidence in my abilities. They may have said that they did, but it's easy to say things sometimes. Actions do speak louder than words at certain times. So all of those things just built such a negativity in me, and it became so deep seated. And I never knew it until I started going to therapy. I never knew these things. I was just going through life, but I knew what the kindness meant to me. And those simple things, we can do that every day and just make a difference in someone's life. I would get borderline depression all the time. And it was always something simple like that. Someone wanting to go to lunch with me, or just responding to me in some way. Wanting to talk to me, wanting to take a moment with me out of their busy day. It was those kind of things that would just jerk me up. When I got down, those kind of things just jerked me up, and they're simple things. Sometimes, I would go out for coffee with someone, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me get this for you," or sometimes, I would be in the grocery store. I vividly remember, because, right out of college, I struggled a lot. Nobody told me that when you got out of college, you wouldn't automatically get a job. It was very difficult for me to get a job. I was either overqualified for certain jobs or not qualified enough, or I didn't have experience. And it's just like, how can I get experience when you won't give me a job to give me experience? So, I was struggling, and I had my last $10 and that I could spend for the week. And I remember going into a grocery store and thinking, well, I guess I'll either I'll try and get this, and then I'll have to do something, something else. I'll have to cut somewhere else because I need to eat. And the person in front of me just looked at me and was like, let me get that for you. And let me get that for you. And I was just blown away. And I remember I was so thankful because now I had my money that I could do something else with. So, things like that periodically through life have helped me tremendously. And I don't think people understand the importance of just those little things and how much of an impact they have. And then comes probably, well, there were there was times. My next job was a histotechnologist, and eventually I became the manager at a cancer center, doing cancer research, and the girls that I worked with, they would come in and they would just bring me a chocolate, and we would just sit there for a minute and chat about the difficulties of the day and different thoughts and different ideas and over Hershey Kisses, over Reese peanut butter cups, over different things like that. And it seemed like when I was so frustrated with work, when I was so frustrated with life, one of them would just, bounce in and pop a chocolate on my desk, and they would be, okay, so what's happening now? Da da da, and it was so simple, but so meaningful, And then when I had probably I would say the biggest crisis of my life, and I was there in my house, and I was just sitting on the floor staring at the walls, not really able to do anything. And I got a text from a friend and said, I'm on my way. I'm bringing you lunch. We're going to have lunch together. And it wasn't it wasn't an ask, because there are different moments in people's pain and grief, and there are some moments when you have to ask. There's some moments when you need to ask things, but then are some of those friends that know you and that know that you're devastated and you don't really know what to do or what to think about or how to even think of what you need. And they just do it. And so, she brought me Chick-fil-A, and we just had Chick-fil-A. And then there are those friends that, they're just there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to talk. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit but their presence means so much. Just having another person, another human being there. I had another very, very, very dear friend, and she just came and just sat and just held my hand, just to let me know that she was there, that she was there, and I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't need to entertain her. She was just there. And that was so important. And then, you always have that friend that makes you laugh, and I had this one friend in that same crisis that said, "Oh, I'm bringing you muffins for breakfast, and I just want to see you." I'm like, okay, and she busts in the door, when she got there, and she said, "Oh, she bought me like this pack of muffins," and she's like, "Oh, these are so good. You need to eat these. Oh, by the way, I had one on the way here," and I look at the package, and there's one right in the middle that's gone. And I don't know why, but it just made me chuckle for a moment. And I needed that so much. Just that moment of relief. And simple act, nothing, it wasn't intended to make an impact. It wasn't intended to be anything or to do anything. It was just a statement. But it made such a difference, such a difference. And then we come to what I wrote the book about. It was an interaction with a stranger. This wasn't a friend. This wasn't somebody that I knew. This was someone that I didn't know. And that, I think, was what had such an impact on me of this whole experience. And it was just a few moments of an experience. And at that point, at this particular time, I was devastated, and I was in such a negative place. I was actually sitting there, and I was planning on how to end my life. I was planning on what I should do, how I should do it. It's not like this was the first time I've ever done that, but I was really serious. I was just tired. I was tired of this life because it was such a struggle, or it had been such a struggle. I was tired, and I just didn't want to do it anymore because I didn't feel like I could, and I didn't feel like I was worth doing it. I was worth wasting time. And so I was sitting there, and this person entered the space I was in. And they saw me, and they sat beside me, and they put their hand on my arm, my forearm, and they looked in my eyes, and they said, "How may I help you?" And I just looked at them in bewilderment, because this was somebody that looked like they were so important, and they had so many things. This person looked like they were regal, like they were some type of executive person, and that they would have had like back to back meetings upon doing other things. And I was like, wow, this person is taking a moment of their time to look to me. They noticed me. I was sitting here. They saw me. They saw me at my darkest time, and they came over to ask how they could help me, not what I could do for them. They don't even know me, and they want to help me. And so all these things were being processed in my head. Those 5 words and all these things were processing in my head. And then I just started blurting out everything, and they listened. It wasn't like they said, how can I help you? And then, oh, okay, well, I have something to do, or I have a meeting to go to, or, it wasn't like they were just passing by and, the passing by, hey, how you doing? But you don't stop to hear how I'm doing. You just keep going. It wasn't that. They stayed and they listened. And that had such a profound effect on me, and it changed the way I saw myself, actually, because I kept thinking about that, and I really got stuck on that. And it was like, I'm here. This is me. I'm the mess that I know I am. And yet someone stopped to listen to me, to see me and listen to me in this state that I'm in. So there must be some kind of good in me to make this happen. And then it just started to gradually, the more I thought about it, the more it changed, and it just snowballed into things. And I know, like, when I've talked to my friends on the streets, they made a profound impact on me too. I was talking to this gentleman one time, and he said, thank you for talking to me and listening to me, because I live on the street, people look at me, if they look at me, as a problem. And most of the time they just pass by me. They just walk on by me. They don't see me, or they see me as, in his words, a piece of trash on the street to avoid. And that's, that simple act, it was probably, 5 minutes that I was talking to him. But it just goes to show that we are all so similar. We all want similar things. We just want to be seen and heard, and we want to be shown kindness. We want to be shown love. I had plenty of people. I was volunteering at a food bank, and I would have countless people that would visit. They were regulars. They would visit every month because they needed assistance. And they would always come up to me, and they would either give me this great big hug, give me a smile, grab my arm or my hand, and they would just say, thank you. I look forward to seeing you every month because I just love your smile. You smile at me. You ask how I'm doing, and you'll listen to me. Sometimes that's all I need, and just those things that treat people with humanity, with dignity. It's just so profound. If you learn like the basic words, some of the basic words in a language, so that you can see someone and you could say hello. It means so much that you have taken time to learn their language and you want to speak to them. You want to acknowledge them. You want to get to know them a little bit. It just means so much. Just these little things, holding the door for someone who is already struggling when you're out in public, or offering to help someone with their groceries, put it in the car. If you see an elderly person, the elderly people of this country are so neglected and seen so poorly when they have so much to offer, so much wisdom, so much love. They have so much to offer, yet they're so neglected and just thrown away sometimes. And just for you to notice them, for you to go to a retirement center or some public place where they're having an event for elderly individuals, and just sit down, just talk to them, read to them, have a cookie with them. We would always have, I worked at a retirement center, and we would always have organizations that would come in and have like tea and punch with the residents. It was so meaningful to them, coming in and singing with them, coming in and just doing these little things have such a profound effect on people. And from that simple act of kindness, you can change a person. Trust me, it's happened to me. You can change their outlook on themselves, on life. You can prevent them from doing something to themselves, from harming themselves. You can prevent those things just by being kind, just by taking a moment, just by listening. I was at an event a couple months ago, maybe weeks, months ago, and I was listening to this speaker, and that she was transgender, and she was just talking about, the difficulties of her life. She was talking about fighting to exist and talking about how small and insignificant she felt. And, it just triggered something inside of me. And I was like, oh, I've felt that way too. That's something we have in common. And that is something that we can build a relationship on. If you're a parent, and I know I've heard the majority of parents in this country say, oh, I would do anything for my child, anything for my child. Well, you automatically have something in common with many of our immigrants, because they came here and they're fighting for their children. Different things like that. We can find common ground with people. Maybe we like the same things. Maybe we like the same food. Maybe we like the same places, doing the same things. Maybe we like reading the same books, watching the same movies. You can always find so many things in common with people if you just will listen to them. If you'll just take a moment to listen and talk, and then talk. Then you can talk, and then you can form friendships and other relationships with people, and your community can grow, and your life will be so much richer. So I want to leave you with those tidbits and thoughts. And I want to thank you for listening to me. I know this was pretty long-winded, but I could go on for so long about this and how these things have changed my life, how meeting these people, these beautiful people, people that don't look like me, but we have so many things in common just as human beings. That alone has made my life so rich, so fruitful, and so full of love. And so I want to thank you for listening. I want you to think about those things. And I also would encourage you to try it out. Just start simply with a smile or a hello or something of that nature and see what it does. Because usually it brings a smile on the other person's face. And that in itself just lights your soul. So I want to thank you, and I want to remind you that you do not have to suffer alone.